Welcome to Brocker's Forge. Today we're doing a detailed look of Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. This is a series where we take a close look at all of the components and junk that we get inside boxes and tell you how we feel about them. Looking at the instruction booklet, which is 20 pages long, 14 of those are actually for the regular play, 3 pages of solo play, and then there's another page of variant and a couple pages that just describes the lore of the world. On the front of the instruction booklet, there's also a QR code to watch an instructional video instead of having to read the whole book yourself. That's always a nice feature. The booklet features large text and a lot of pictures, which makes the game easy to learn, and also has a lot of headings so you can easily find the part that you're looking for, so you can easily refer to the instructions that you need. Here we got the Orc faction. The Serf here's got a shovel. He looks pretty grumpy, like he has to work. Alright, the warrior here has a giant war axe. The chieftain here is pretty cool looking. He has a lot of detail in his face. The shaman here also looks pretty cool, and I bet it'll be fun to paint. And then finally, the berserker has twin blades. Really dangerous. So the orcs here have the war croc, which is an interesting sea animal that has like a basket on its back for the orcs to travel in. And for the air, they have a dragon. I wish that the dragon piece itself would have extended out so the face didn't look so weird. The faction symbol for the orcs is probably one of my favorites. It has giant tusks and is very skull-like. Alright, taking a look at the human faction figures here. So the serf is a generic farmer guy. The warrior here is pretty interesting. He looks like a crusader. The paladin with the giant warhammer. We got a mage with the bow staff. And the swashbuckler, which has a cute little monkey. So for the cardboard pieces, we got the galleon as the sea dock, which is pretty generic tall ship looking thing for the humans. And the airship kind of looks like a hover ship. It's got a lot of fans pointing towards the ground. The faction symbol on the capital and the tower is also pretty generic. It's just looks like a guy wearing a crown. And that makes sense because these are just some boring humans. The serf model seems kind of out of place instead of being like a worker or grunt. The warrior are all archers. The commander has very cool armor. It looks like a lot of exotic metals were put into her armor. The sorceress is very skimpy for this game where everybody seems to be pretty fully clothed. And the assassin also has twin blades. The Elves sea dock is the corsair, floating along a cloud or something. And the phoenix is their airship. I have the same complaint with this as I do with the dragon, though. I really wish the head was more pronounced or stuck out more or something. The faction for the elves is a phoenix itself in a cool purple and blue teal. Last faction for the base set is the Dwarves. So all of these miniatures have sort of a pirate feel to them. The Marauder has a piratey pistol and kind of looks like the captain of a ship, and the Priestess and has a staff. The Cannoneer is by far the coolest miniature in this group. Has a giant cannon with a bunch of cannonballs. For ship travel, the dwarves have a barge, which looks pretty cool. I like how it has little punched out windows in the front. And for air travel, they have a griffin, which could not be more on the nose if they tried. The griffin also has a little bit of armor on him. And the symbol for the dwarves is just the picture of a mountain, basically. And that's pretty appropriate for the traditional dwarf faction. The player boards for the game are all thematic to the faction that they are for. They all have different buildings on them. At least the first 3 buildings are different, which produces a different unit depending on what it is. For example, the human cathedral produces a paladin, while the tavern makes a swashbuckler, because every swashbuckler needs a place to get their rum. The stats appear to be all the same for the units from faction to faction, as well as their cost. So the larger capital you have, the more abilities that each of your buildings receive, which is pretty cool. I appreciate the size of the player boards. They are rather large for the information that they convey, but all the information is on the board very clearly and large enough so that you can easily see what's going on and easily keep track of everything you need to as the game progresses. Taking a look at the game board, which is a key component in a board game, the artwork on the board is pretty nice for the different islands. There's a giant score marker along the top and left side of the board. The score tracker on the board is divided up into 5-point sections, so it's easy to count higher numbers. The only thing I worry about is that if the spaces on each island are big enough, this is an area control type game and you have a bunch of units and you're moving them around. So I just wonder if there's enough space to hold all the miniatures on the board without guessing whether this miniature is on this space or this space. It looks like it might be a little crowded. There's also a lot of space in between the islands, so I'm wondering if they could have shrunk that space down a little bit and then made the areas a little bigger. I don't know. It might have been a little beneficial, but I am noticing it. There are little flourishes all over the board. There's a broken ship, sea turtle, there's a giant kraken in the middle, things just plastered all around. Seems pretty cool. I like the style. This is a 4-fold board, but it's rather large for a 4-fold board. Yeah, each of the squares are quite big, measuring 13 inches by 13 inches, the same size as the box, which is larger than most games. Taking a look at the cards. So in the game there are 2 sizes of cards. We have spell cards, which are in mini half-size card format. And then the hero unit cards and the tactic cards are of the normal size variety. The spell cards have a quickly done sketch look to them and with a sepia tone, but fits well with the theme of being a scroll. There isn't many tactic cards for each player. The artwork on the tactic cards has a watercolor feel to them. I especially like the artwork on the siege card. The solo play cards basically just have a lot of text on them with some icons, but nothing too special. The hero cards feature the same artwork as on the player boards, but a little bit larger, and in some cases have a cool background to go with them, and a little bit of text that makes it real nice, of lore. Taking a look at the punchboard quality here, the tokens and all of the cardboard pieces, they seem to be of rather good quality. According to my caliper here, seems to be about 1.5 millimeters thick, which is pretty decent thickness. There are some people who do thicker tokens, but not many. So these are good quality, especially considering that a lot of these figures are actually pieces on the board. The artwork themselves on the tokens, the exploration tokens, are okay. They're not great. Of course, they'll have to be the same on one side. And they have a large bezel around the edge. That way, in case they were punched out incorrectly, then it would be fine. I would have liked to see more variety in the artwork here, but that's okay. The wooden components for the factions are very nice. They are screen printed on one side for most of them, as well as the victory point marker for the factions. They're also base coated in the faction's color, so that's quite nice and easy to discern them from each other. They also have the faction logo, I want to say. Each faction has their own emblem or logo, and that's also printed on the tokens. That would help out colorblind people if they're unable to tell the difference between